Hey yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another vlog or video, whatever you want to call it. Today's topic will be, do I believe in spirits slash ghosts, whatever you want to call them? Let's find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Anyway, let's get right into the story, but before I start, get comfortable, plug in your headphones. Again, do whatever you want to do. Stand up, sit down, lay down, do whatever you want. Anyway, let's continue on with the story. I'm gonna start off the story by talking about some background, I guess, from my family and stuff like that. It's about to get juicy. So, um, I say when I was probably like two, my my dad's dad died. Well, my grandpa died. Um, and surprisingly, he died on the day of my birthday. Not when I was born, but when I turned 2 or 3. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never met the guy. At least, well, I have when I was like young. But when you're young as shit and you don't remember shit. Yeah, I was that young. So I don't remember the guy, but I do remember seeing him once in the photo. I remember once, only once. I was like, oh, okay, he was in a wheelchair. His last few, I guess, months or days, um, he was really weak. He couldn't stand up. He couldn't go to the bathroom alone. He was also in a wheelchair his last couple of days. And before I start talking about him, may he rest in peace, honestly. Anyway, so continue on to the story. Um, when I first, I guess, encountered him, it was in a dream. And you guys know, I'm pretty sure I do kind of remember this, or I'm probably tripping. But you know how like not the story, but this part. You know how like in cartoons or movies when someone's gonna dream, like the dream starts off white or some shit like that, and then everything comes into view. It was kind of like that. It was weird. Anyway, once that started happening, turns out I was in a rocking chair and we were like in a front porch, and like in front of me it was like desert slash rancho type of like area. Um, and I couldn't tell where I was at, but all I know was that I was in a wheelchair, not a, fuck that, not in a wheelchair, in a rocking chair, and I was still, I wasn't like moving or anything, and I was just looking like in front of me, but I did notice that like we were in the front porch, and all I hear is another rocking chair, and I turn around to my right, and I see him, I see my grandpa, and I was like, yo, you're my grandpa, right? All stupid about it. Again, guys, sorry, but I've only seen him once in a picture. And he was like, yeah, I'm your grandpa, this and that. So we started having like a little mini conversation, and then I was like, where are we? And this thing tripped me out because, like I said, this turns out to be 100% real. You could ask any of my family members. So I asked him, where are we? Again, this is a dream, and he says, well, we're in my heaven. And I'm like, what do you mean your heaven? He's like, well, see, people have the idea that when you go to heaven, it's all white and stuff, and you're with Jesus and all of that, whatever you want to call him. Um, no disrespect if you believe in anything else, just FYI, throwing that out. You believe in whatever you want to believe. Again, YOLO. And and he's like, see, people think that when you go to heaven, you're all together, happy, this and that. He's all like, but in reality, heaven is the place that you miss or like you love slash desire the most. And I was like, oh, so you create like your own heaven when you die. And he's like, yeah, exactly. You create your own heaven. And I was like, yo, that's fucking dope. And it was like a Matrix thing. He's all like, whatever you want the setting to be, think of it and like, it pops up. And I was like, that's dope. And then and then afterwards, after we talked for a little bit, um and then I asked him, so like where exactly are we besides your heaven? And he's like, we're in Mexico. We're at my house. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, guys, before I go any farther, I forgot to say my grandma is still alive, and she travels from and to Mexico. Well, she travels she travels just from Mexico back to the U.S. and from the U.S. back to Mexico. Like it's always like on and off type of thing, like going back, going coming back, going over there, coming back, stuff like that. So anyway, um, when I had the dream, she was still in Mexico, and then okay, continuing back to the story, just letting you know that my grandma goes and comes, you know. And anyway, so he's all like, I want you to follow me into the house. And I'm like, all right. And I remember as soon as, like, I stepped foot into the house, haha, funny, because I'm crippled, you know, haha, step foot. But it's weird. I don't know why. But, like, in my dreams, it's weird as fuck, but I could walk. It's weird. Anyway, so, um, as we go into the house, he's like, he stopped me and he's like, I want you to I want you to pay very close attention to the details in this house. And I'm like, okay, you know, pretty weird for a dream, you know. Anyway, so we're going back towards the house to a room. Simple room. It was nice. 2 beds, drawer in the middle. And there was a cross on like one of the walls. And he's like, I want you to remember this room specifically. I want you to remember where everything's at, where this and that is at. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And then he's all like, all right, and then he points to the drawer in between the beds. And he tells me, I want you to tell your grandma that in this drawer, this exact drawer, I left her some money. And I want her to find it. And I'm like, okay. So we go back out, and trippy shit was that he said, whenever like you need someone to talk to or you need me, just call my name. It was some weird shit, honestly. And then I was like, okay. And then he's all like, all right, bye. I love you. Tell your grandma that I love her. And I was like, okay. Bam, I wake up. Of course I don't tell my grandma, right? Because who the fuck is gonna believe me? Oh yeah, I dreamt your dead husband. He told me to tell you this and that. Anyway, turns out I never ended up telling her. A couple of weeks pass. She comes back to the U.S. And when she comes, we like throwing like a celebration. Not really a celebration, but like we get like getting the family together. You know, when she comes and stuff like that, so that she could see all of us and this and that. So I remember we were at my aunt's house, and she's all like, and she ended up talking about like how it was over there, this and that, how the weather, you know how it is. If you're Mexican, stuff like that, like you know when you go to a trip over there to Mexico, and you ain't used to going over there, you're like, how's this, how's that, how's my rancho, how's this and that, you know, stuff like that. Anyway, that's exactly what was going on. So she starts talking, and she's all like, oh, she gets to a part in the story, and this is where she ends up getting my attention. She's all like, oh, guess what, guys? I found a ball of money in this drawer. And I was like, oh, shit. At that exact moment when she said that, it gave me goosebumps. I swear to God, that shit gave me goosebumps. And I was like, where did you find it? She's like, well, I found it in our room, this and that, you know, in the drawer. And I was like, what the fuck? Now, take in mind, guys, that, again, no disrespect to my dead grandfather or grandpa, but he's been dead for a couple of years now, like a good amount of years. This was probably when I was like 14, 15-ish, around there. And again, he died when I was around 2 or 3. And I was like, what the fuck? That shit creeped me out. Alright, so that happened. That was 100% real. I'm not making it up, I swear. Later on, into the future, remember how I said that I've experienced death face to face, this and that? Well, when I've been in the hospital quite a lot, and I remember I was healing from the biggest surgery I've ever had in my life. It was a 10-hour surgery, and man, was I in, I wouldn't say help, but I did feel really fucked up. And you've ever been like at a point in life where you're like, you're at your lowest, and you start thinking about all these fucked up things, how the future is gonna be, how this and that is gonna go. Well, that's exactly what I was going through. I was laying down in bed thinking all this crazy shit, like, oh shit, how am I gonna live my life now after this surgery? I'll get into details in the future about what the surgery was from, but all you need to know was that I was in recovery for about like, probably like 2 months, around there, like a month. It was a pretty big surgery and a long ass recovery time. And I remember I was asleep on the hospital bed, and you know how the hospital beds, if you're like small like me, if you're young, or you're small in size, and like they're long as fuck, and you know how they have those guards like by where you're at, so that you won't like fuck around and roll off the bed, and then like towards the end where like your legs are supposed to be, there's not that railing, if you get what I'm saying. So I remember I woke up crying, and it was weird as shit though because I was asleep. Like I wasn't controlling my emotions. That shit was weird. So I wake up and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I was crying for no fucking reason. I wasn't sad or anything. I was just like, "What the fuck? Why am I crying?" And then um at the end of the bed to my left side, I saw my grandfather sitting down. And I remember him telling me, he said some quote in Spanish. It was something like around the thing with like um time heals something something, time heals I don't know, it was some weird shit, or like with time and patience something something. It was a weird ass quote that he said to me in Spanish. But I remember looking at him confused as shit. Not because he said the quote, but I was like, "Oh, what the fuck? You're like right there at the end of my bed. And I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, and why the fuck am I crying?" I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I remember he ended up leaving after he said the quote, and he was like, "I love you," and like it was some weird shit because as soon as he said that, like he like disappeared dimly. It was some weird shit. Like I've had a lot of ghost encounters. It's some weird shit. And basically, to wrap up the video, since it's already going on to like 12, 13 minutes, my personal opinion, there is a lot of strange things that some of us don't experience in our lives. But I do believe in spirits slash ghosts. To end off the video, I am a believer. But yeah, guys, I'll be continuing um, more ghost stories and stuff like that later on into the future of the channel. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace out. Have a great day. And like always, guys, YOLO. Deuces.